Hi, my name is Craig Resnick from the ARC Orlando Forum 2014. Today my special guest is Don Pearson, Chief Strategy Officer of Inductive Automation. How are you doing today, Don?
Very good. Thanks, Craig, for having me.
Great. Your company built a lot of momentum in 2013. What are you kind of going to be doing in 2014 to kind of continue that momentum? What are you going to be providing your customers?
Well, as you said, we had a lot of momentum in 2013, and we're really pleased with our first Ignition Community Conference that we held. So we're going to be doing that again in 2014, and it's really driven us to expand staff, expand service hours for support, just basic things like that. But also we got a lot of feedback from all of our customers at the conference and throughout the year that basically said as global customers are coming on board, they want to have more global capabilities. So I think you'll see momentum build from one, the track and trace module that we released here, which allows a single interface for bringing together lots of different information for organizations from their MES, SCADA, and ERP systems. And then our enterprise administration module, which we'll have by the third quarter, which allows globally an organization to take wherever the servers are, whatever facilities, cities, countries, and bring them together in a single interface with a single dashboard so they can manage globally all of their Ignition activity around the globe.
Now, you mentioned a track and trace module. Why should a company invest in a track and trace module?
Well, I think, Craig, there's two reasons to look at that. One of them proactive and the other is reactive. If you look at it from the proactive side, we're bringing together information from all different aspects of your organization into one place, so you know where a product came from, how it went through the process, where it ended up, allows you to increase efficiencies, allows you to increase quality. You can get on top of things and make changes more quickly when you find there is a need to make a change. So those are cost control things from the proactive side. Reactively, tremendous amount of regulation goes on already, and that's increasing. I mean, if you look at pharmaceuticals and food, just two industries, the Drug Quality and Security Act, which I think the President signed that in November of last year. That's going to really impact organizations in pharmaceutical because it's a whole supply chain control point at the federal government level, requiring traceability in that field. The Food Safety Modernization Act is another one. We're talking about going to the restaurant level, going to farm level, going to farm products produced outside the United States. When you think of the regulatory demands on organizations, that is a big cost factor. Just the mere fact of being able to know where information came from a recall standpoint could change your cost and reputation impact significantly from 500 units recalled instead of 5,000 or 50,000. So I believe that in this day and age, both proactively and reactively, track and trace module, critical for any organization.
You know, when you think about that, I also think of big data analytics and converting data into actionable information. Does your company offer, what type of big data solutions do you provide your customers?
Well, I think just even taking this sort of disruptive technology, as it's called, of big data. I mean, big data is only as valuable as you can bring it together, integrate it, analyze it, relate it. So when I think of what Ignition does, you're talking about the two sides of an organization. With the MES modules of the Ignition platform, you're pulling together data from the ERP systems and data from your HMI SCADA systems and bringing it all together. So for big data to work, you got to be able to take the ERP side of it, which is what? Accounts receivable, accounts payable, financials. But that group of data is looking at data in terms of weeks, months, annual reports, quarterly reports. But you got to bring it down to the production level data where you're talking about a shift time, you're talking about an hour, you're talking about a minute, a second, a millisecond. You got to bring together the milliseconds of data from your OEE and your downtime work all the way to the financials on the back end to really get the power out of the big data promise. And I think that the Ignition platform it's really well suited to bring that value all together for the customers.
You know, we talk about that as being a challenge for manufacturers. What do you see as the two biggest challenges for manufacturers and processes going into 2014?
Well, I actually don't mean this tongue-in-cheek, but one of them I think is the mindset challenge that we are faced with. It's difficult for individuals to change. So I think if you have two big challenges, one would be older technologies, older business models and proprietary systems that lock data down as a basic philosophy rather than open it up and make it flow. Data needs to be available in order to get the basics of big data to work in your favor. And the other is the mindset I mentioned, is people sometimes are thinking in older ways, and you're not going to create tomorrow if you're stuck in yesterday. You're simply not going to do that. We got to shift our mindset from technology as an expense to technology as an investment. And I actually think there's one point on that that's really critical, and that is SCADA as a definition, supervisory control and data acquisition. All organizations do is acquire data and use it to control for supervisors. But we got to expand the viewpoint of SCADA and say SCADA needs to be at the enterprise level. We sort of think there's a new definition of SCADA. Call it what you like. Call it enterprise SCADA or call it e-SCADA. But it has all this data from the production line all the way to the ERP systems available to the entire enterprise for better informed decision making.
You know, all that is part of producing a value proposition, because obviously no company is going to get a signature for a project unless the return on investment, return on asset calculations are done to the satisfaction of the company. So what do you do to help your customers establish those metrics so they can get the projects justified?
Well, I do think there's two things we do. One is the basic of the Ignition platform by inductive automation is its licensing model and the business model opens up for real good project justification, because you're investing in software that has unlimited licensing model for clients, tags, devices, designers, whatever. So think of this. You make an investment in your software, it's in your organization, and you can do multiple projects with that same software across God knows how much territory in terms of the divisions inside your organization. I think that's a big thing on total cost of ownership, and also our cross-platform nature. I think it's April 8th, if I'm not mistaken, that Microsoft announces an end of XP. They're not going to support it anymore. What does that mean to manufacturing? Well, if you think about it, I read a blog from Tim Raines, who's their, I think he's their director of trustworthy computing, and it was on a Microsoft blog. And he said, after April 8th, XP has 0-day vulnerability to attackers forever. What does that mean in the manufacturing world? Well, I think our cross-platform nature, backwards compatibility to all versions of Windows or Linux or Mac, those features of Ignition help with total cost of ownership and keep costs down to manufacturers.
You know, as a last question, when you mentioned Mac, one of the things that's been a trend in industry is people buying apps, you know, through the iOS store or through Android. But you at Inductive Automation don't use those channels. You use your own channel to sell apps. So why do you do that?
Well, I think part of it's our philosophy and part of it is our structure. If you look at the actual structure of the Ignition platform, it's got a platform and everything on top of it is modular in nature. So we decided that we wanted to have an open viewpoint towards our customer base and our global community. What that meant was our modules would lend themselves to a module store. You see our prices, you know what you're paying. But with the SDK available to other developers, third-party developers could develop successful applications, and they could sell them, use them, access a global marketplace. So if you're trying to build a global community with an open platform philosophy, for us to have a module marketplace made perfect sense. In fact, we announced it last year here at the forum, and we got over 50 modules now, and it's growing, and we're getting more third-party developers. So I think it allows for a very engaged and involved global community, and that's sort of the viewpoint we take towards the users of Ignition, and we like having that marketplace there for them to take advantage of.
Oh, that's great, Don. Thank you very much for being with us today. And this is Craig Resnick from the ARC's Orlando Forum 2014. Thank you very much and have a great day.